Hi all, in this video I'm going to explain exception handling with an analogy. Meaning is I'm going to depict the exception concept using a real-time use case. It's going to be an animated workflow. In general, developers or the programmers who are developing an application might encounter two variants of errors. One, an error which occurs at compile time, and that is called as a compile time errors. Another variant of error which occurs at runtime, and that is called as exception. Here we are focused on exception. So let's get into the use case in order to understand the workflow of the exceptions and the exception handling. So in my use case, I have three buildings in a particular street. Okay, and each building are going to refer a code block in our application. So code block means it's going to be a method block. It can be a method block. So I have a method block 1, method block 2 and method block 3. Every method block are referring to a building in real time, right? So in this use case, I'm going to fix an unexpected event on building 1. So in building 1, there is going to be an unexpected event that's going to happen. So it means in the code block 1, that is in the method block 1, there is going to be an unexpected event that's going to occur. So in real-time use case, if you consider a building 1 which is going to face an unexpected event is none other than a fire that occurs on building 1. The people inside the building are going to look out for a fire extinguisher in order to suppress the fire. But in this use case, unfortunately, we don't have a fire extinguisher located in the building. So fire extinguisher is an element which is going to be called as a fire handler. So typically, the fire handler is not available in the building 1. So in my method block, there is no exception handler. There is an exception which is going to occur in the method 1, but unfortunately, we don't have the exception handler in the method 1. That is the simulation that's happening between the building 1 and the code block 1. Now, since we don't have the proper fire handler in the place, and because of this, the other parts of the street, that is the other buildings on the street, will also get impacted, right? So, or the fire might also get spreaded to the other buildings because there is no proper fire handler kept in the building 1 in order to suppress the fire. If the fire would have been suppressed in the building 1, then the building 2 and building 3 would have not got impacted. And since there is a fire that's on building 1 and we don't have a proper fire handler, and due to this reason, we don't have an access to the building 2 and building 3 in this use case. So we are not going to have any access to the building 2 and building 3 unless the fire is going to be suppressed. So the use case is very clear that if in case we don't have a proper fire handler for this unexpected event called fire, then obviously the whole environment is going to get impacted. So according to an application simulation, let's take an example of this code block 1 which has an runtime error which is called as an exception, and that exception is not handled properly, and because of that the method 2 and method 3 is getting impacted. It means the whole application is going to get terminated abruptly. Abrupt termination happens because there is no proper exception handling is taken place. So because of this, it's pretty clear that the building 1 which doesn't have a fire handler in it, it impacts the other parts, other buildings in the same street. So building 2 and 3 are impacted due to unavailability of fire handler in place. But if in case, let's take another use case for the same, another understanding for the same use case. If in case there is a fire on the building 1, which is an unexpected event, the same from the method point of view, it's an unexpected event or an exception that occurs in the method 1. Now, if we have a proper fire handler, we have a fire handler in the building, meaning is we have placed a proper exception handling in the method 1. If there is a proper exception handling in the method 1, then sure you will be using that proper handler in order to suppress the exception. Once you suppress the exception, meaning is once you suppress the fire, then obviously the rest of the building is still having an access to it, right? So fire got suppressed. According to this use case, the fire got suppressed, and once the fire gets suppressed, meaning is we have a proper fire handler, the building 2 and building 3 are safely protected. It's not impacting the building 2 and building 3, and your building 2 and building 3 is highly functional. Even though the building 1 is not going to be functional since the fire occurred, and we have used a proper exception handler, that exception handler is used in order to protect the other part of the program. That is, the code block 2 and code block 3 are not impacted because of the code block 1. Why? Because we have a proper exception handler. In the real-time use case, we have taken the fire handler as an exception handler, and we use the fire handler since there is a fire handler in the building, and because of that the fire got suppressed, and you have a complete access to the building 2 and building 3, and building 2 and building 3 are not impacted. Meaning is your application is not going to get terminated abruptly. Your rest of the application are going to get executed successfully even though there is a problem that occurred on the code block 1. So this is the real-time use case that we can consider for understanding the exception concept. So we have more detailed understanding of this exception in a technical point of view, which we will be discussing in the upcoming videos. So if you look at the more clear description, exceptions are unexpected event which should be predicted and handled appropriately in an application development. So what we can conclude out of this scenario is exceptions are something which is going to occur at runtime. It's an unexpected event which should be predicted. So in this case, fire might occur. So we need to predict. That's why we need to have a fire extinguisher to be placed in each and every building. If we have a proper prediction of an exception, then we will be having a solution for it. So we should predict it, and we need to handle it appropriately in an application development so that at the runtime the application will not get failed. Even a part of the application is going to get failed, the rest of the program is going to get executed successfully, right? So this is an animated understanding, but we will get into more technical understanding of this exception in the next video. Thank you all.